Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Cover 2, presented by Tigervision. I'm Patrick Neal, Grayson Mann. As always, your Cover 2 co-host, Grayson. Well, it was another fantastic week in college football. We had a few upsets, which we'll get into. And yeah, like I said, just a great overall week. I mean, you got Oklahoma losing to Baylor. It was what a lot of people, I think, were waiting for. Yes. Oklahoma to lose. Of course, they struggled all year with the likes of Kansas, who again, we'll talk about them in a little bit as well. But
we will.
It was a lot of chaos in the Big 12 this week.
Yeah, and this is why whenever we did our first four next two, which we do before the end of each episode, I did not have Oklahoma in my top six. I was so hesitant. I said I wanted to. In my mind, I want to see how Oklahoma does against a team that can test them, that can punch back. Caleb Williams looked rattled. It was no pun intended there. But he ended up getting benched too, which kind of was like, the tables have turned. I see.
Yeah, he also I think he got his hand stepped on, which was pretty painful. So that may have been part of it. But yeah, he didn't play well at all. He had two interceptions, I think. Yeah, two interceptions, 9 of 18 for 142 yards, no touchdowns. It was not a great week for Oklahoma. Yeah, you were definitely right to not put Oklahoma in your top six. You're making me look like a fool for putting them at six. But they were undefeated until this week.
We're making up for all the Auburn misses.
Yeah. But anyways, Baylor, they looked really good. They were able to hold Oklahoma, who has been a pretty potent offense all year, to 14 points, and they scored 27 themselves. They had almost 300 rushing yards. Jerry Bohannon, he didn't have to do too much in the passing game. And they get a big rebound after losing to TCU last week. Yeah,
they came in, they were fresh, they were fired up, and you had at the end of the game the little incident with the fans rushed in a little prematurely. They were fined a significant amount for that one.
I don't like the fine rule.
No, I don't. I mean, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah,
the fans are happy.
It makes it so much more exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I think Lincoln Riley was a little PO'd about it.
He was. Because if you didn't happen to catch it, Baylor, they won it. They called a timeout with about 3 seconds left to kick an extra field goal because points scored is or point differential or something is one of the tiebreakers in the Big 12. And when you're trying to get to a conference championship game, it's really important. Lincoln Riley afterwards said he really didn't like the move from Miranda. He thought it was pretty disrespectful and that he wouldn't have done the same thing. But I don't know if that's true or not.
I think he's a little sour afterwards.
Yeah, he's just a little bit mad that they had to walk back out. The whole Oklahoma team had to walk back out. It took a few minutes to get everybody off the field, bring out 11 Oklahoma players to just stand there while Baylor kicks a field goal. But yeah, I mean, good win for Baylor again after their kind of shock loss to TCU when it was TCU's first week without Gary Patterson coaching.
It was a rebound. And then you go into against a team like Oklahoma, who is still a very good football team. Just this year, it may not be the year, and that's fine. But they're still in control of their destiny for the Big 12.
They still have a good chance to make the Big 12 championship game. But if we want to talk a little bit more chaos in the Big 12, Kansas gets the win over Texas.
Let's clap it up for Kansas. Getting a Power 5 win.
It was pretty awesome to see. Kansas, of course, they kept it close with Oklahoma earlier in the year, but as I was typing these notes today, I was listening to some music in the background, and have you ever heard the song "No Air" by Jordan Sparks? It's a 2000s classic. Last week you had Usher and DJ "God Has Fallen in Love." I got "No Air" from Jordan Sparks, and that's exactly how I think about Texas. They got no air in their sails. Ever since the Oklahoma game, they've come in with 5 straight losses.
Look at you and me, the cultural references.
Yeah, we've got that's what the show is now. It's just culture. 2000s pop icons. I mean, what else we got? Like
we'll figure some stuff out later.
Flo Rida almost getting upset by Samford.
Oh, we later. We can save that for later.
Yeah. But anyways, back to this game. Back to the game at hand. Kansas, they put 57 on Texas, which at Texas, it's pretty impressive. I mean, props to Lance Leopold. He's kind of building something there.
What Kansas does so well, they feel like they have that RPO master. And if you watch, Kansas is not a team that's in the national spotlight every week. You're not like. If you're not a Kansas football fan, and most Kansas football fans aren't Kansas football fans, because just for certain reasons, you're not watching Kansas football a lot. So when I watched Kansas Oklahoma, I was like, wow, they've got that RPO thing going. They got it. They know what they want to do. They know who they want to be. And it was the same thing against Texas. 57 points against the Texas team that was supposed to be back, and then they weren't back. But if you can see back, if you're watching at home and you see that little background, they are absolutely, positively not back. It's not happening.
They are definitely not back. They are in the back of the Big 12 right now.
Yeah.
In terms of the standings, and I don't know. They're moving to the SEC soon, so.
I bet Bama like that.
Yeah. Bama will love them now.
You've seen the guy behind the tree meme where he's like doing like this. He's like,
oh yeah.
It was
Vanderbilt.
Yeah. It was like Vanderbilt watching Texas lose to Kansas. And I was like, oh no.
But yeah, I mean, it's Steve Sarkisian's first year. You can't fault him too much. I mean, a loss to Kansas is a loss to Kansas. Like it's not something Texas should be doing, but it's his first year. Not all the players are his players, so you got to give him a little bit of leeway there. You got to give every coach a few years before you really start judging them. But at this point, it's really just Texas has like really lost the want and desire to really win, I think.
Yeah, and we were talking about this right before in the video of recruits watching the Kansas game in the game-winning 2-point conversion and laughing, and I was thinking, I know this is like really funny to watch, but this could be disastrous for recruiting just because of the implications. I don't think it'll be like you have people necessarily decommit, but it's just something to look at moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, Texas is more of like worried about their own brand than they are worried about winning, I think.
Yeah.
It's
just being back in general.
Yeah, that's all they really want. But then they don't. Then they come out, they lose 5 straight, and you got losing to Kansas. But they also have Bijan Robinson out for the rest of the year, which is another blow.
That's painful
for Texas.
That's Heisman candidate scratched out.
But yeah, I mean, it's going to be something. There's just no morale in Texas, especially their locker room right now. So hopefully they can get back on track. Kind of what we've talked about a little bit. College football is better when the teams like Texas are good.
Absolutely. So we're hoping.
So yeah, we want them to be back, but they're about the farthest thing away from being back right now.
They just took a big tumble down a hill, so we'll see how they climb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On to a pretty fun game to watch, I think. Over the weekend, you got Purdue. They weren't able to play. Spoilers again. They lost to Ohio State, 59-31. That first half from Ohio State was something else. I mean, their issue all year had been, or one of their issues all year had been not being able to convert yards into points. And then they come out first half, scoring all 7 of their drives. They go up 45-17, I believe, at halftime.
It was butt kicking.
Sure. Yeah, they looked great. I mean, they did let Purdue score 31 on them, which is not something you want to see.
Yeah.
But their receivers, dude. I mean, let me read you their season stats for the top 3 receivers. You got Jackson Smith and Jigba, 59 receptions, 1,027 yards, 5 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson, 53 receptions, 813 yards, and 9 touchdowns. And Chris Olave, 51 receptions, 708 yards, and 11 touchdowns.
Wow.
Like, you could have potentially 3,000-yard receivers.
That's just unheard in college football. That's a little unheard of.
That's insane.
C.J. Stroud is waking up every morning just blessed, feeling
good. He is so happy to have that receiver room.
Speaking of C.J. Stroud, I see the 5. I know that the receivers play a huge role in this, but it always comes down to the quarterback. Have we found the front runner in the Heisman race?
Maybe. I still believe Bryce Young is the Vegas favorite, but if they keep performing like this, I mean, maybe. I think the narrative is always going to be that C.J. Stroud is being carried by his receivers, which, I mean, Garrett Wilson, he came in and made up for lost time not playing the game before. He had 4 touchdowns.
It was all around it was fireworks for Ohio State.
Yeah, and then you got, like, the backup running back, Mayan Williams, who is, if you haven't seen him play, he's basically a bowling ball. He's like 5'8", 200-something pounds, and is just a monster.
It's a nice change of pace from Trayvon Henderson.
Yeah, exactly. He's their backup running back and had over 100 yards. But their offense is so loaded. But, yeah, their defense is something you got to watch out for, especially when they're playing Michigan State this weekend. They had 0 sacks on Purdue, and Purdue were still able to get a ton of yards and finish with 31 points. Part of that may be a lot of it was scored in the second half when Ohio State kind of let up. They only scored 14 points themselves in the second half. But, they definitely proved that they are able to turn yards into points.
We needed to see Ohio State make a statement at some point. I mean, we were thinking all year with Ryan Day, how is this offense going to look with it was pretty much a brand new cast of characters in this team. Like when I was watching Ohio State Minnesota, I was thinking this is a new Ohio State team because I've been so used to Fields and Barrett and all these teams. But now, finally, they've made a statement. They're able to convert yards into points. They're able to have complete drives. This looked like a complete team. And against Michigan, if you're watching and you're a Michigan State fan, you're like, uh-oh, they've caught fire. They figured it out.
Yeah, the Michigan State should definitely be worried this week. But,
yes.
I mean, they got their own weapons. They got Kenneth Walker.
They got the guy.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good.
I'm excited to talk about that one.
Just like Travion Henderson. But yeah,
That'll
be
fun.
exciting to talk about next week.
Yeah.
On to the Big Ten, another game that was very, very much looked forward to. You had Michigan. They were able to come in, survive, get past Penn State at Penn State, which is never an easy place to play. I mean, Michigan, it was really, the story was their defense, especially their defensive line. 7 sacks, 12 tackles for loss.
Wow.
Aiden Hutchinson is quite nice at football.
He is that guy.
He is a monster. And Penn State, they've been one-dimensional all year. They haven't been able to run the ball. They averaged 2.6 yards a rush on Saturday. And Michigan, because of that, they were able to just get pressure on Sean Clifford because he was forced to throw. And I mean, even saying that, Michigan still only won by 4.
Right. And I hate that hopefully that they're around the nation. I feel like the consensus is that Penn State is a ranked football team. They're a much better football team than their record indicates. This is a heck of a win by Harbaugh. This is a team late in the year. This is when Michigan starts to show the cracks in the armor, especially you had 2015 where that Michigan State, that whole fiasco with the punts. They got trounced by Ohio State one year. They lose in overtime to Ohio State one year. It feels like Michigan's starting to win those dogfights, those close ones. They're making smarter decisions. This team is really playing for Harbaugh. It was really impressive. And I think that winning in Penn State, we've seen a lot of teams go in there and fail. We've seen Ohio State before go in there and fail. I really liked what I saw from Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, I think Harbaugh's at the point now where he's going to be judged basically on how he plays against his rivals. He did beat Penn State this week, but of course he lost to Michigan State 2 weeks ago, and he's got Ohio State in 2 weeks. So, at some point, I don't know how satisfied Michigan fans are with going 10-2 every year and losing to Michigan State and Ohio State every year. But I mean, they'll have a chance against Ohio State. They'll have to put up points, and I think they're really missing somebody like Ronnie Bell, who of course went out with, I believe, an ACL injury at the start of the year.
Yeah.
They're really missing that receiving playmaker that could turn their receiving game, their passing game up a notch, because they didn't have too many. I mean, Eric All, the tight end, he had a game-winning receiving touchdown with about 3:30 left. It was like 45-ish yard touchdown, but. Yeah, I think they're really missing that dynamic playmaker.
Yeah, I think for every championship team, you want to have those, you want to have a play in there where you're like, all right, I know we can get this explosive play. We can get a freebie, move the ball down the field, be explosive. Does Michigan have necessarily that? Not sure. No, they can run the heck out of the football, but can they take the top off the defense? Can they get a 50-yard pass through the air? Can they get a 60-yard pass through the air? It's just some things that we'll have to see moving forward. There's still a little bit more time for them to work things out, potentially find something that works. They got a big one against Ohio State coming up.
It'll be super, super fun to watch, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, Michigan, they're a good team, but they're really being judged at this point, I think, how they play against their rivals.
They're under a microscope for sure.
Mm-hmm. On to Georgia. They came into Tennessee, got the win, put up 41 points, but also let up the most amount of points they've let up all season.
A measly 17.
Whoa, look out. Georgia almost lost. N'Kobe Dean said in an interview after that, he was basically the Georgia defense was taking those 17 points personally.
Oh.
So if you're, Charleston Southern next week?
Oh, goodness.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Oh, pray for Charleston
I guess
Southern.
there's no upset, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. Man, I was really hoping Tennessee kept this one close. And they kept it close throughout the first quarter.
I texted you. I was like, you're kind of a genius.
But
I was ready for it.
Second quarter came, and Tennessee put up 9 total yards of offense.
But this is what you wanted to see as well. You wanted to see Georgia play an explosive team. You wanted to see Georgia actually face some sort of adversity. See what happens when they get punched in the mouth. And they said, at some point, they were like, all right, we're the better team by far. Move over. We're going to win by 41. We're going to win 41-17.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that is how they deal with any sort of adversity. Like, they're just going to go in, whoever they play, they're going to, even if they struggle in the first quarter, come out second quarter, come out second half, and just completely dominate.
Yeah.
They had 6 sacks on the day, and they were down again by their largest margin all season. Tennessee was up 7-0. So
7.
I know.
Nice.
James Cook had a really good day. He had over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both a receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown. But yeah, Tennessee, they were unable to run on Georgia's team.
They were not.
But Georgia's team hasn't been able, or Georgia's defense hasn't given up really any rushing yards all season. So
I would like everyone in the country to know that Clemson played Georgia the closest. I just want everyone to know that.
That is true.
They played them the closest.
That is true.
So hey, give us some credit.
Maybe Clemson's a playoff team. Maybe.
That just makes me sad.
I don't know. Maybe.
The world would have to be split in two. You'd have to have the NFL, you'd have to have the Jets come to college football because they're so bad. You'd have to have a lot of things happen for Clemson to make the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, don't hate on the Jets that much. They got 2 wins.
I'm a Pats fan. Of course, I got to hate on the Jets a little bit.
They beat my Bengals a few weeks ago.
Oh, they did.
But yeah, Georgia dominant as always until SEC championship, until playoffs.
They're on autopilot at this point.
They are on autopilot.
But it's not like an autopilot where they could get distracted and then it's like the autopilot. We know what we got to do. This is the expectation. Let's move on. Charleston Southern, Georgia Tech, and then we think Alabama.
Yeah, most likely.
Most likely.
I mean, there's still a chance for Ole Miss, who, if we're talking about Ole Miss, they came in, beat A&M. They beat A&M at Ole Miss. So
they dominated A&M.
They could have put up a lot more points, I think.
Yeah.
It was only 29-19, but Ole Miss played some defense.
They did. Wait, what?
Yeah. You heard me right.
What?
Ole Miss played some defense.
I didn't get my ears checked.
They got a safety. They had 2 interceptions late to seal the game. One of them being a pick 6. Yeah, and I don't know how they shut out A&M in the first half, but I mean, Matt Corral, he didn't have the best of games, and they were still able to beat a really, really hot Texas A&M team.
Matt Corral is a tough son of a gun, because I know that injury that he's been dealing with all season. He's starting to round to form. It wasn't the prettiest thing. They got a lot of people hurt. They got a lot of people banged up, and this Ole Miss team is finding different ways to win. This evolution, this Lane Kiffin team is very fun to watch. It was this and Wake Forest, NC State just flipping back and forth. This is SEC football. That's what I was in my mind. I was like, this is what the SEC is supposed to look like, and not like the 70-56 of Sanford, Florida, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, personally, if you would rather have defensive shootout or defensive game versus offensive game, I think personally I'd rather have the offensive game.
Oh, for sure.
But it's a little bit more exciting. But which is why it's been so frustrating to watch Clemson all year. But anyways, this was more of a classic SEC game, a lot more defensive. A&M was crawling back. They brought it in within 2 or 3, and then all of a sudden Ole Miss scores quickly twice on 2 quick turnovers. And pretty much ended the game there. Snoop Connor and
what a name.
And yeah, Snoop Connor and Ely both had very good games. They had a lot of chunk runs.
Yeah. What a name though, Snoop Connor.
Snoop Connor. There are a lot of great names in college football. I think we talked about this earlier at some point.
Maybe.
Yeah, Sauce Gardner. That's right.
Smoke Monday, Sauce Gardner.
Big Cat Bryant over at UCF.
Yep.
The former Auburn player, but there are a lot of good names. I would be inclined to agree. But yeah, like we were saying, Ole Miss, I think they're a really good team. It's just they've been so banged up.
Yeah, and I think that if they were to be healthy right now, and if it wasn't for a couple things that haven't gone their way, I think we'd be having a much different conversation about this team. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be tough because Corral's going to declare for the draft after. It's no secret he's going to be in the NFL. But I like what Lane Kiffin's doing with this team. It feels like a more complete team. It's like, and this was the one that proved it to you because they were playing defense. They're like, all right, our offense isn't doing it for us. We got to step up as a unit. They're ranked in like the 100. Like I think it was like 120 or something in like rush defense, and they were stopping A&M, who's usually their run game is the point of their offense.
It was really impressive, especially because Ole Miss has such a subpar rush defense. But yeah, Ole Miss they came in, got the win.
They came to play.
Yeah, like we were saying earlier or last week. Last week I was saying A&M was playing as well as pretty much anybody in the country.
Yeah,
it was an impressive win, but. As you mentioned earlier, NC State and Wake Forest, one of the later games this week.
Shootout.
It was a shootout. Wake Forest loves those. But
they do.
They were able to pull out a slim victory. They won by 3, 45-42. NC State almost got the onside kick at the end of the game.
They did.
I was a little sad when I saw that it was illegal touching? Yeah, illegal touching just a little bit early. Because I wanted to see a final drive, but Wake was able to kneel it out. A lot of turnovers in this game.
There was a point where I was watching the game, and Hartman threw a pick, and then Leary threw a pick. Like, they were just giving it back and forth to each other. But, again, Wake Forest is explosive. It's a fun team to watch. Hartman is a very good quarterback. It is a very interesting dynamic in the ACC this year. And if you're a Clemson fan, you're watching this going, you'd rather Wake Forest win now. You take care of business against them this week, and you have them play BC against Jerkovich. It's Jerkovich, I think that's the correct pronunciation of that. Because you'd rather have that lineup instead of NC State, who plays 2 wild cards, and you never know what you're going to get from Syracuse, and you this year especially don't know what you're going to get from UNC. So you wanted NC State to take one of those losses now and just lay it. It's in Wake Forest's hands, but Clemson still has a shot, which is really weird to say after this year.
It is very odd to say, but. One of the first dominoes fell that Clemson needs to get into the ACC championship.
You got Jim Carrey. They're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance. But yeah, you summed it up pretty well. It was a shootout. Sam Hartman looked good, although he did have a few interceptions.
Yeah.
Leary looked all right, but there were a lot of injuries in this game too.
Yeah.
Wake, they had Jakari Robinson go out with an injury. They're already missing 2 starting corners, so. They might be a little bit banged up going into Clemson, who also is going to have Justin Ross out.
Dabo said we're like a wounded dog on the side of the road.
Yep.
But we got a chance.
But this was probably the best ACC game we've seen all season.
Besides Wake Forest and North Carolina, it's now Wake Forest and North Carolina State, which is just.
Wake Forest loves to get in the shootouts, man.
They do. So maybe not this next week. If we had to talk a little, if we're going to talk a little Clemson Wake, if Sam Hartman, I'm going to say this, if Sam Hartman has another multi-interception game, I would take Clemson 10 times out of 10. Because eventually, Clemson's defense, they like to create turnovers, they like to create pressure. That defensive line is one of the best in the country still without Brzee, in my mind. If they can get pressure and force Sam Hartman to make turnovers, and they give DJ a short field who has struggled this year, give them a little bit of help. Just saying.
Anything can happen. It's college football. That's why we love it. But on to our first 4 next 2. We of course talk about our personal playoff teams and then who we think are right outside of it. It's every week. It's number 1. Do we even need to talk about them? Should we just skip over it? Georgia number 1,
Georgia. There you go.
Yeah, that's about it. Number 2 for you.
Number 2 for me is Ohio State. And Ohio State really impressed me this week, and I love what I saw from Purdue, a team that saw from Ohio State against a team like Purdue, who has a lot of momentum. They've beat 2 top 5 teams this year. I really, really enjoyed the receiving core of Ohio State. Is like watching. I wish I could be the quarterback of Ohio State. And they're making plays. They're, like you said, turning yards into points. It's going to be very interesting. They had the head-to-head against Oregon. I know that's going to probably hold them back from being a top 2 team, but if you put Ohio State on a neutral field against Oregon now, I think they beat them.
Oh, yeah. I like what you were saying. I think either one of us could be pretty successful as an Ohio State quarterback.
All I got to do is just say, hey, go along, and with barely any arm strength that I have.
It's that meme where it's like, screw it. Wilson's down there somewhere. Olave's down there somewhere. Smith and Jigba's down there somewhere. I mean,
somebody's down there.
Somebody's down there.
Someone will catch it.
It's crazy. I also have them at number 2. I like Ohio State for a lot of the same reasons you like them.
Yeah.
Their offense is very, very explosive.
They're a fun team to watch.
They are a very fun team to watch.
Usually it irks me because they could play Clemson and it could go wrong. But this year I'm just enjoying it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it now.
But yeah, they're a very, very fun team to watch. I really want to see them play Georgia just because I think that matchup would be super, super fun to watch.
Yeah, that might be your national championship.
Maybe we'll see.
We'll see. We'll visit that in January.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's just that letting 31 to Purdue is a little worrisome. But
I'm going to chalk that up to garbage time.
Okay.
I'm not going to worry about it until I see something like. If Michigan State drops 45 against them,
yeah, then you'll be really worried.
Cause for concern.
I think there's just a little bit of concern there because their defense isn't great. But on to number 3, I guess. You want to drop your number 3 team?
For 3, I get Cincinnati. I only dropped them 1 spot, and I think Cincinnati they didn't play on Saturday. They played USF on Friday. Took care of business as usual. They're undefeated. They're playing good football. There's not much I have to say else about Cincinnati. Love what they're doing. Think they got a shot at the playoff as long as they stay undefeated, and there's not much else to say. They keep winning football games.
I'm gonna put Alabama at 3.
Okay.
I moved up Ohio State and Alabama this week. Dropped Cincinnati, but I'll talk about that in a second.
I still can't put Bama in the top 4.
I mean, they were very good. Of course, it was New Mexico State, so they were never really going to struggle, but.
There was a point in time where UConn was beating Clemson, New Mexico State was beating Alabama, and Samford was beating Florida all at the same time.
Oh yeah, it was a little bit crazy, but again, why we love college football. But I mean, I moved Alabama up just because Cincinnati has struggled. I mean, they put 45 up on South Florida, but I don't even know if they've covered a single game they've played this year.
What was the line for USF?
It was a lot. It was like 20 something.
Oh,
and
they
didn't cover. They only won by what? Can I do math? 17? Yeah, 17.
Yeah, 17.
Which, when you're playing USF, is that's not very impressive. And they're going if they were playing schedules that where they're playing deep into Power 5 conference schedules right now, I think they would probably have a loss. I mean, maybe not, but
we'll see.
They're playing a lot of teams closer than they should to look competitive, at least against the likes of Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama right now.
Yeah.
So I have them at their number 4 for me. I still have them in the playoff spot because they are undefeated, and I want to give them credit for that. But it's come to a point now where they really, really have to look impressive, or they're in danger of missing out on the playoff.
I think that it comes down to with Cincinnati, I think that as long as they're at 5 right now, so as long as somebody slips up, and it's not there's an interesting conversation to be had if Alabama plays Georgia close. Let's just assume that what happens if it's a 2-loss Alabama that beats Georgia, they lose to Georgia 24-21, game-winning field goal type thing. What do you do?
I mean,
I don't agree with if they put a 2-loss team in like Alabama.
I don't think it's right. But I think the committee at this point would probably do that. They would probably keep Alabama.
I mean, they have to start considering they consider every option. But I don't know. What's your 4?
Cincinnati.
Oh, there we go. I think I just had a brain fart or something.
Yeah. But we can transition to year 4. How about it?
So for 4, I got Oregon. I think they're just right where they need to be. They're winning games. They took care of business this weekend. I think Oregon's going to get a real test with Utah. But I think with Utah, it could be interesting. If they end up dominating them, I'm going to be like, ooh, okay, the Oregon's my lock for the playoff at that point.
I got Oregon at my number 5 spot.
Okay.
But they face a test this week against Utah, who is going to be a tough ask for the Ducks. But I mean they've looked all right.
Yeah.
They only got 1 loss, of course, to the bad Stanford. But my number 6 team, I'm going to put Michigan State there. They, of course, lost to Purdue, but that's it. They played Maryland this week, and we're good.
For me, I got Bama at 5 and Michigan at 6. Okay. I think Bama, they need a little more from me to be in the top 4, but I think that I don't know about that argument. Like, put them on the middle neutral site. I would favor Bama against everybody but Ohio State and Georgia right now, but I just don't know yet. Their play on the field has not been very top 4-esque. But I'm sure that when they play to that level of competition, they might look like the same old Bama. So I'm just not sure.
Yeah. They'll play a ranked Arkansas team this week.
Yep. So yeah, there it is. There's a test for you. Yeah, Michigan at 6, close game against Penn State, close test. I want to see Michigan Ohio State very badly. I really do.
Yeah, it'll be super, super fun to watch. But you have them over Michigan State?
I do. I do for now.
Okay.
I'm just not sure about Michigan State, and I think Michigan, that Penn State win, going into such a tough environment, for me is wanting to see Michigan for the last 5 years play a team they should beat. It's a tough challenge, especially like playing at Penn State. It just really impressed me. It hits somewhere where I really like Michigan here. And if they played again, this was a team that was dominating Michigan State for about 3.5 quarters, and then Michigan State came out of nowhere, was able to rally it. If they played again, I'd take Michigan.
All right. I kind of like what you said, but I almost put Michigan ahead of them, but then I was like, Michigan State has the head-to-head, so I'm going to put them there for now.
Okay.
But I think I kind of agree with, if they were to play again, Michigan would probably win, or play on a neutral site, Michigan were to win. But that'll about do it for this week of the Cover 2. We want to thank you, as always, for your viewership, and we look forward to another great week of football.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Tune into our Instagram. We're going to keep doing those lives. We enjoy doing them. We enjoy you guys tuning in and dropping your comments. A little bit of connection spottiness this week because of the whole tailgate situation, but we'll be fine. We'll be ready to go. We'll see you guys very soon. You guys take care.
Have a good one.